Charleston City Council member Robert Mitchell has been dealing with issues from 526 to hotels, and he's up for re-election next year. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with him one-on-one. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Quintin.
I really appreciate this.
Anytime for you.
Yes, sir. I
You
appreciate
work hard.
it. Oh,
Anytime.
Thank you. Speaking of which, you guys are working hard at Charleston City Hall. Right now, as you know, there's a controversy over a phone vote that Councilman Rodney Williams that is made a couple weeks ago because he was out of town. Councilman Bill Moody had some reservations about it, but ultimately the mayor and city attorney basically said, hey, this is fine. And I know when I talked with our Councilman Rodney Williams on yesterday, he basically says, quote, I have the right to do that. It is something that we do. We've done it before. The most important thing when it comes to dialing in a phone vote is leadership. And he basically says that if there's a problem, we do need to have an ordinance to make it clear. When you hear that, what goes to your mind?
Well, you know, we did pass and approve an ordinance that you can do a phone, call in by phone. But I thought it was only for committee meetings. And when this controversy came up, then we had the city attorney to explain it and said the state say that we could do it. But I told a lot of a couple of the council members, if they're not satisfied, contact the Attorney General and get an explanation about it.
Okay.
And that's the only way to go about it.
Yeah.
You see.
Speaking of which, there are so many issues, like I mentioned earlier, going on at Charleston City Hall. Describe to me the following one word, Sergeant Jasper.
Trouble. And I mean trouble because we got the neighborhood associations in the area. They want certain things. And Sergeant Jasper was there for years.
Right.
You know, the people own the property, they own the land there. So we have to look at it very seriously to see who's right or who's wrong. I can't tell you what it is, but when a person is building something and they own the property, we have to look at it very seriously in that respect. And neighborhood associations are fine, and I always tell them they're fine. We love neighborhood associations.
Right.
The neighborhood associations, got to remember, they do not run the city. And that's what I'm telling them. They might be angry because of that, but they do not run the city. We have city council members there that was elected by the people to speak on their behalf and make sure that things are done properly and correctly.
Speaking of which, hotels.
Hotels is another thing that's overrunning the city, but we're looking at that very carefully too to make sure there's a balance, if you may, there, that the hotel will not take over the city, so to speak, because we have a lot of hotels coming up. But we have to look at it and make sure there's a balance. That hotels not overrunning the city to run people out of the city, if you may, but make sure they have a balance with the hotel because we need it. They're bringing jobs for people. And but I always say, in my sense, that hotel is there, but if something should happen, no, God forbid, downturn of the economy comes, the hotel can't be used for anything but a hotel. So we have to be careful with that too. So with the vision, when you look ahead, you got to make sure you have that balance there. So if that should ever transpire, if you may, we don't want a ghost town here. We still need the community here to keep going. Right.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the Reed Bridge bike lane.
The bike lane, I support the bike lane twice. And I spoke on that at City Council, that I don't believe that it should come back to City Council. You know, because the state did it and the county was there. The county should make that vote one way or the other. But to me, they seemed like they didn't want to do it. They were afraid to do it, or whatever the case may be, so they sent it back to the city. So we voted on it again, but I don't think it should the council, we don't own the bridges. We don't operate the bridges. It's between the state and the county. So after we vote on it again, I don't know what's going to happen because they still have to go back to the county for approval, which is there now. Because all the information that came back went to the county. Didn't come to the city. So the county should have went and taken it up and voted up or down, wherever the case they want to be. But now they sent it back to the city of Charleston, so we just voted on it and sent it back. And I don't know what's going to happen to it.
Speaking of the county, let's talk about 526. I know that's out of your district, but it's involved a lot of your other council members' districts.
Right.
When you think of the future of 526, what sticks out to you?
Disasters. Because I say disaster because if something happened in that particular area, on Johns Island, if you may, how would people get off of Johns Island when you only have two ways to get off there, which is Maybank Highway and Main Road? And if both those areas are blocked, and you don't have 526 what's going to happen to the people there? The same thing when we had that high rise with the tide. Main road was shut down.
Right.
I had some people as some members of my church, took them almost 2.5 hours to get from Johns Island to Glebe Street downtown.
Wow.
Because you only have one way off and one way on, which is what's made by highway at the time.
Right.
So the same thing can happen again if a disaster in that respect, a big storm comes that we don't know what can happen, and it block both entrances, and you don't have 526 for them to get off, and then everybody will say, well, we should have done 526. 526 is needed. I know Johns Island very well because my mother's from Johns Island,
Right.
was from Johns Island, and I got family still on Johns Island.
Right.
Some of them might say, oh, we don't need 526, but they are looking ahead. Vision. What's going to happen to me if something happened here? How would I get off of this island with my family? So you have to look at it totally different.
And what's something that people are looking at right now is the 6 months of John Teckenberg's administration. As we sit here right now, I hate to ask this, but what letter grade would you give the mayor as far as performance?
Performance right now, he's learning, and there's a lot of things he have to go through because, we had a mayor that was there for 40 years.
That's right.
So with it being 40 years and look at 6 months, that's a big difference because it's a change. And people have to, some people don't like change, but change is going to take place. Just like it's taking place in Charleston. I might not like all the changes that's being taken place, but I can't stop it. But we have to try to make sure that everybody is going to be on an equal playing field together. And so right now with Mayor Teppenberg, I think right now I would give him a B+ rising.
Okay. And let me turn to you once again, because we talk about this a lot when I see you around town or talk to you, but you're up for re-election next year.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why Councilman Robert Mitchell, why again?
There's a lot of things in the community that I'm really adamant about, and that's housing.
Right.
And every time you hear me talk about it, I talk about housing for people in this community that is needed. And if we talk about workforce housing, yes, that's a new terminology that even the HUD office placed down, and they have affordable housing. What is affordable?
Right.
Affordable for whom? So when we say affordable, my affordable is for people who's working in these hospitality fields, working in these hotels, to be able to stay on this peninsula. Right now, most of the people are being forced off the peninsula, so far as I'm concerned, because they can't afford to stay here. But they grew up here, families grew up here, and now they're being kind of moved out of here, and I have a problem with that. So that's why I push a whole lot for affordable housing, which I'm still doing the same thing with affordable housing. And even the Cooper Bridge site,
Right.
I'm working on that. We already approved it. We're going to have some housing there that's going to be placed there. It's going to be housing for people from 30% of the medium income up to 50% of the medium income. You're going to have some workforce housing, some home ownership in the same place, all going to look alike. You wouldn't know which one is which. And that's a start. But that's only 60-something units. But all of it's not going to be low income. We got to remember that HUD is not going to be subsidizing those units, so we're going to have some workforce housing in there to subsidize to keep those other particular units low, for low income, for the people to be able to afford it. So that's one thing I'm working on. And the reason why I'm saying I'm running for re-election again next year, I want to make sure those things are in place and those things are up and running, are put in place before I get off the council, because I believe if another council member come in here right now, they wouldn't know what to do. They don't know what happened approved, because who's going to tell them? And so these are the things I'm adamant about, and also making sure the community I represent is to the table when things are going on, that they have a fair share in speaking and getting involved in what's happening in the community where they live.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's changing, they're still here. We are still here in the city of Charleston.
You know, when I interviewed Thomasina Stokes Marshall, I guess a couple of months ago, right after she retired from Mount Pleasant Town Council, she basically told me who she wanted to groom as far as her successor. It was Raleigh Miller. Obviously, he didn't get that position on Town Council. I'm wondering, is there someone out here you are actually grooming?
As of yet, not yet. Thus far, not yet. What I will do, if I'm successful next year, then I will start grooming someone, a younger person, to see if they want to get into this politics, if you may, and let them know it's not an easy job. I mean, it's a 24/7 job.
Right.
You get calls all through the night. And myself, I'm a little different. I'm out in the streets like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning,
You are.
because I want to make sure that my community stay as safe and possible as I possibly can. I attend all my neighborhood association meetings. You know, sometimes I might miss a few on Valley Borough, Cannon Borough, if you may, but most of the neighborhood associations I attend all of it to be aware of what's happening in the community, to give them information when they ask, and to let them know what's happening in the city. And I try to strive to tell the people in the community to attend the neighborhood association, because that's where all the information is sent from the city, so they can hear what's happening. And the people, and so far as the community is concerned, they need to get involved in where they're living, because you have a council member, but he's only one individual. So we need the masses to come together, to work together and make Charleston the best as possibly can. And we need a diversity. I don't want to live in a place where all just everybody look like me. I want diversity. But with diversity comes, I don't want to hear lip service either. I want to see actions. Don't tell me with the mouth, because the mouth can say anything. So let me see in your action that they're coming together, working together, living together. And that's the way I am.
I failed to mention this to you early in the interview, but I want to take it back to, I guess it was, 2-3 weeks ago, when there was obviously a murder that took place on Aiken Street.
Right.
I know that you and Edward Jones, who is a former Charleston County School Board, constituent school board chairman, were out there.
Right.
When you look back at that to right now, Councilman Mitchell, where are you emotionally?
Sad to see that we lost another young person. And right now, if you look and read the paper, it's happening every day. And it's a sad, sad day, because all the young people, it's young people that's leaving here. So when all the young people are going, we're leaving all the older people here, we're moving on now anyway. So where's going to be the young people that we can give the staff to take it further? It might not be there. You see, and that's the thing we are shuffling with, because we don't know what that young person could have been. Yeah. And although with a person that's deceased, a young person might have been deceased, how about the young person who committed the act? That's another young person that's going to be incarcerated
for the rest of their lives.
So that's more than one. And how about the young people who are family to those individuals? How are they feeling when they have young men growing up? They might grow up in anger in that. So they can cause another vicious circle to go around.
Well, Councilman Robert Mitchell, it's always good talking to you. Thank you so much.
Always. Thank you very much.
I appreciate this.
Anytime, Quintin. Anytime for you.
Thank you.